A pair of boots sits alone beside a fire pit surrounded by 18 inches of pristine snow. Not a single footprint in sight. Thousands of miles away, a 3-year-old boy vanishes right under the noses of a group of adults, leaving behind only a skull cap and pristine clothes on a cliff face 4 years later. And on a mountain near Vancouver, a man is caught on camera stepping off a gondola only to dissolve into thin air as if he never existed. These aren't campfire horror stories. These are the chilling realities of Missing 411, a series of mysterious disappearances shaking the United States, and a secret even more terrifying is emerging in the documentary. Missing 411, the UFO connection. Deep in America's national parks, serene trails and misty mountains hide a truth that will send shivers down your spine. Hundreds of people have vanished without a trace, without a sound, and sometimes without an explanation. We're stepping into the darkest corners of America's wilderness, where nature isn't just beautiful, it's deadly. Glacier National Park in Montana, with its sprawling forests and jagged peaks, is the epicenter of a cluster of disappearances dating back to 1896. Yosemite, with its deep valleys and towering cliffs, holds the grim record as the world's largest hub of missing persons cases. And in Vancouver, the Capilano watershed with its suspension bridge dangling in the fog is where hikers vanish, as if swallowed by the shadows. These places aren't just remote. They carry an eerie atmosphere, as if the wilderness itself is watching, waiting. Locals from seasoned hunters to veteran rangers speak of moments when the forest falls silent. No birds, no insects, not even the rustle of wind. And then someone is gone. Leading us into this mystery is David, a former SWAT officer with a sharp gaze and an obsession he can't shake. Once trained to face the most dangerous situations, David now dedicates his life to uncovering the truth about these missing people. His journey began years ago when 2 park rangers knocked on his door in a national park, whispering about cases swept under the rug. They told him that after 7 and 10 days of frantic searching, everything goes quiet, as if the victims never existed. David dug deeper, filing Freedom of Information Act requests only to receive a cold response from the National Park Service. They keep no list of missing persons unless he pays $1.4 million. That didn't stop him. With thousands of cases studied, David has become a beacon, illuminating the shadows no one dares to touch. And the victims, they're not faceless. Aaron Hedges, a veteran hunter in Montana, knew every trail in the crazy mountains like the back of his hand. He left his group to grab supplies, promising to return, but left only his boots and water bottle by a fire pit in a snowstorm. Jared Atadero, a 3-year-old with a radiant smile, vanished during a trip to see a fish hatchery in Colorado, leaving his father Alan with a pain that never fades. David Koch, 36. A nature lover disappeared on Grouse Mountain despite cameras tracking his every move moments before. Morgan Heimer, a 22-year-old guide, vanished while trailing a group of tourists in the Grand Canyon, even though he wore a life vest and was near dozens of people. Neville Jewell, a hiker in Vancouver, sent a cheerful text to his girlfriend before disappearing forever. These are ordinary people with dreams, families, and lives interrupted by a mystery beyond comprehension. What makes these cases so terrifying isn't just the disappearances, it's how they happen. No screams, no footprints, no sense for search dogs to follow. Clothes are found neatly folded as if left as a message or appear in impossible places. Bodies, when found, often turn up in areas searched dozens of times, as if someone deliberately placed them back. And then there are stories that make your skin crawl. A 90-year-old hunter recounts being abducted by a UFO, seeing elk frozen on a spaceship, and being released with a strange bullet in his pocket. Could this be the key to unlocking the mystery, or just one piece of a larger puzzle? Think about it. What could make someone vanish without a trace? A natural accident like a fall or animal attack, but why no blood, no signs of struggle, a serial killer lurking in the woods? But how could they strike without being detected, especially when many victims carried guns? Or is it a bigger conspiracy hidden by those tasked with protecting us? The National Park Service's silence, demanding $1.4 million for a list, raises questions about whether they're shielding their reputation or something far more sinister. And then there's the hypothesis that makes you shudder. Could UFOs, or even portals to another dimension, be swallowing these people? Each theory has holes, but also its own allure. Natural accidents are simple, but don't explain folded clothes. Serial killers are terrifying, but impractical. UFOs and portals sound crazy, but fit the bizarre details no one can explain. Personally, I can't shake the feeling that something bigger is at play. These details, folded clothes, dogs finding no scent, bodies appearing out of nowhere, aren't random. And when you learn that many victims, especially hunters, are of German descent, it makes you wonder, is there some kind of selection, a pattern we don't yet understand? Maybe, as David once said, we're just an ant farm for the galaxy where higher beings come to collect specimens. But to understand more, we need to go back to the final moments of these people, where every clue begins to reveal a truth more terrifying than anything we've ever imagined. The moment Aaron Hedges left his friends to grab supplies at Sunlight Lake, no one imagined he'd never return. But when searchers found his boots, water bottle, and a fire pit in 18 inches of snow with no footprints, a haunting question arose. How could a seasoned hunter like Aaron vanish in a forest he knew like the back of his hand? Aaron's story is just one of hundreds in Missing 411, where bizarre details and unexplained clues point to a mystery beyond our grasp. From the deep forests of Montana to the misty mountains of Vancouver, each disappearance is a piece of a chilling puzzle. And today, we're diving into the final moments of these people, where the shadows began to claim them. Let's start with Aaron Hedges, a hunter who stashed supplies across Montana's crazy mountains, where he vanished on September 7, 2014. Aaron was no novice. He knew every trail, every ravine, and was always prepared. With two friends, he brought pack mules to carry gear. But a strange incident occurred. Their mules panicked, scattering and losing some supplies. Undeterred, Aaron told his friends via radio he'd head to Sunlight Lake, not far away, to grab sleeping bags and food from a hidden stash. "I'll be right back," he promised. But that was the last they heard from him. When Aaron didn't return, his friends weren't overly worried. He was tough, often hunted alone, and could handle anything. But by the next day, when the radio returned, only silence, unease set in. Days later, when they left the wilderness and contacted the Park County Sheriff, a massive search began. A team from Sweetgrass County, entering from the east, found a scene that chilled them. Aaron's boots, water bottle, water filter, and a small fire pit all nestled in deep snow. No tent, no footprints, no sign of Aaron. The sheriff was certain he's nearby, probably dead from hypothermia. But despite National Guard helicopters with FLIR scanning the area and search dogs combing every inch, they found nothing. No scent, no tracks. Aaron had vanished like a ghost. Farther north in Vancouver, a similar story unfolded with David Koch on May 25, 2005. David, 36, a sales manager who loved the outdoors, was on a business trip in Vancouver. After a day of work, he decided to ride the gondola to the top of Grouse Mountain, a popular spot with stunning views. Around 7:30 p.m., CCTV captured David wearing a t-shirt, shorts, and sandals, stepping off the gondola with 25 others. He walked to the restroom area, appeared again on camera minutes later, then nothing. It was as if he stepped into a void. That night, the weather turned with heavy rain flooding the trails. A search began immediately with 400 volunteers, helicopters, and bloodhounds. They scoured every corner of Grouse Mountain, but found nothing. 13 days later, a discovery stunned everyone. David's body lay in a shallow pool, just 100 feet from a trail, in an area searched dozens of times. Even stranger, the coroner determined David died on May 31st, 6 days before being found. So where was he for the first 7 days? No injuries, no signs of struggle, no clues explained his absence. Then there's Jared Atadero, a 3-year-old with a bright smile who vanished in the late 1990s along Colorado's Pudra River. Jared was the son of Alan Atadero, who ran a resort hosting a group from Denver. The group wanted to visit a nearby fish hatchery, and Jared begged to go. Alan agreed, trusting the adults to watch his son. But unbeknownst to him, the group decided to venture 8 miles further to the Big South Trail without permission. Jared, with his tiny legs, walked ahead of the group and met 2 fishermen. "Are there bears here?" he asked innocently. Instead of keeping him safe, they shooed him away, saying he was scaring the fish. That was the last time anyone saw Jared alive. A weeks-long search yielded nothing. 4 years later, a discovery broke Alan's heart. Jared's skull cap, a few bones and clothes were found, 750 feet up a cliff, nearly impossible to reach. His clothes, underwear, inside-out shirt nearly intact, had no blood, no tears. Mountain lion experts confirmed no animal attacked Jared. So what carried a 3-year-old to that height, and why were his clothes in such a strange state? These cases aren't isolated. In the Grand Canyon, Morgan Heimer, a 22-year-old guide, vanished while trailing a tourist group despite wearing a life vest and being a quarter mile from dozens of people. In Vancouver, Neville Jewell, a hiker, sent a cheerful text to his girlfriend on September 12, 2015, then disappeared in the Capilano watershed. Tom Billings, a 22-year-old trail runner, vanished in Lynn Canyon despite being seen just before his hike. Each case shares chilling traits: no screams, no footprints, no scents for dogs. Bad weather rain. Snow fog always hits right after they vanish, as if nature is hiding something. And when bodies are found, they're often in places already searched, like a cruel joke. But the clues don't stop there. In many cases, victims' clothes are found neatly folded like a hunter in British Columbia, who left his outfit under a log and his gun on a mountaintop miles away. In urban cases like Manchester, England, or the Great Lakes, victims, mostly young men, are found in rivers with high levels of GHB, a date rape drug, in their blood, with no explanation for its source. GHB can't naturally appear at those levels. How did it get there? And why are bodies found in states suggesting they were in the water only days, despite being missing for weeks? Another detail I can't shake: many victims, especially hunters, are of German descent. Among thousands of cases, David noticed a disturbing pattern. Hunters and physicists who vanish often have German roots. This isn't random. Is there a selection process? Then there's chronic illness. Some victims had diabetes, epilepsy, or lung issues, but outwardly they were healthy, unlikely to collapse in the wild. What do these conditions mean? Is someone or something targeting specific traits? The eeriest clue comes from an unexpected witness. A 90-year-old hunter who told David about a harrowing experience in the 1970s. He was hunting in a remote forest when a UFO landed nearby. He described 3 elk standing frozen like statues, and when he fired, the bullet moved in slow motion, then fell as if hitting an invisible wall. A humanoid figure in strange clothing approached, handed him a packet like vitamins, and told him to eat. Next, he woke up on a ship where the elk stood motionless. The figure said they regularly take elk, deer, and marine life for monitoring. When released, he rolled down a hill, injuring his shoulder, but miraculously, his childhood tuberculosis scars were gone. The bullet he picked up was analyzed by Wyoming criminalistics, confirming it hit something never seen before. He passed 2 lie detector tests, both showing he 100% believed his story. Where do these clues lead? There are 5 main theories. First, UFOs and aliens are abducting people, explaining the lack of traces and bodies reappearing in odd places. The hunter's testimony and cases like the elk in Washington support this, but the lack of physical evidence weakens it. Second-dimensional portals studied by NASA physicist John Brandenburg could trap victims in another realm, explaining cases like Dale Stallings' cries for help with no visible source. Third, natural accidents like hypothermia or illness, but these don't account for folded clothes or dogs' failures. Fourth, a serial killer but acting in the wilderness with armed victims is nearly impossible. Finally, a cover-up possibly by the National Park Service to protect tourism or hide experiments. Their silence and $1.4 million demand ad weight, but there's no concrete motive. Personally, I lean toward UFOs and portals, as crazy as it sounds. Too many details, folded clothes, no sense bodies appearing from nowhere, defy logic. The hunter's story, though wild, aligns with animal abductions like the elk in a CWD-infected area. Are aliens monitoring our planet's health, sampling humans and animals? But what haunts me most is the selection. Why German hunters and physicists? Why chronic illnesses? The hunter said he wasn't chosen because he'd been sterilized, hinting at a breeding program or DNA collection. These questions aren't just scary, they lead us to the pain of those left behind, the families and searchers fighting for answers only to face a chilling silence from those who should help. When Aaron Hedges' boots were found by a fire pit in snow with no footprints, his family didn't just lose a loved one, they were thrust into a nightmare with no answers. Their pain, shared by hundreds of families in Missing 411, isn't just about loss. It's the helplessness before questions no one can answer. Why are clothes neatly folded, like a message? Why do bodies appear in places searched dozens of times? And why are those tasked with protecting us, like the National Park Service, staying silent, even obstructing the search for truth? In this part, we'll dive into the agony of those left behind, of the community's response, and the unsettling secrets shrouding these disappearances, where a new clue, a 90-year-old hunter's UFO testimony, opens a possibility more terrifying than anything we've imagined. Let's start with Alan Atadero, Jared's father, the 3-year-old, who vanished along the Poudre River in Colorado in the late 1990s. Alan was a strong man running a resort, but the day Jared disappeared shattered his world. Jared only wanted to see a fish hatchery with a group from Denver, and Alan, trusting the adults, agreed. But when he learned they took Jared 8 miles further to a wilderness trail without permission, Alan was torn by guilt and anger. The search lasted weeks, with hundreds of volunteers scouring the forest, but nothing was found. 4 years later, when hikers found Jared's skullcap on a cliff 750 feet up, Alan collapsed. The boy's clothes, underwear, inside-out shirt nearly intact, had no blood, no tears, as if untouched by an attack. Alan spent years seeking answers, consulting mountain lion experts, only to learn no animal was involved. He became friends with David, the Missing 411 researcher, and every time he recounts the story, his voice trembles, the pain as raw as ever. "I just want to know what happened to my son," he says, but the answer remains hidden in the shadows. Alan's pain isn't unique. In Vancouver, David Koch's family, devastated by his 2005 disappearance on Grouse Mountain, faced a similar nightmare. David Vidaris, 36, a nature enthusiast, always told his wife about his outdoor adventures in Vancouver. When he didn't return from the gondola trip, his wife alerted police, sparking a massive search. But when David's body was found 13 days later in a shallow pool, in an area searched thoroughly, his family wasn't just grieving, they were haunted by the question, where was David for the first 7 days, when the coroner said he died on May 31st? No injuries, no struggle, no clues explained his absence. The family demanded further investigation, but the response was silence. In urban cases, the family's pain is amplified by suspicion. In the Great Lakes and Manchester, England, dozens of young men were found dead in rivers with unusually high GHB levels, a date rape drug, in their blood. One parent, unconvinced by the initial autopsy, demanded a second and found GHB at levels impossible naturally. "How did my son get that in his system?" they asked, but no one answered. These families launched campaigns pleading for public tips, but media coverage faded after a few days, leaving them alone in their grief. Communities around these cases are caught in a whirlwind of fear and frustration. In British Columbia, a hunter vanished, leaving clothes folded under a log and a gun on a mountaintop miles away. A massive search ensued, but the coordinator, a veteran, was shocked when RCMP SWAT arrived, unprecedented in his career. Even stranger, they were barred from entering the woods, told the area was unsearchable. "Nothing is unsearchable," he told David, his voice thick with confusion. This restriction not only halted the search, but made locals question, what are the authorities hiding? In Vancouver, volunteer teams scoured the Capilano watershed for Neville Jewell and Tom Billings, but bad weather, torrential rain, and fog always interfered, as if nature was conspiring with the culprit. But the most troubling silence comes from the National Park Service, the agency meant to lead these investigations. When David requested a list of missing persons, they demanded $1.4 million, a staggering sum. They also use a bizarre classification: missing and presumed dead, erasing cases from official records, especially those from the 1900s in Glacier National Park. George Knapp, a renowned journalist, said bluntly in one of David's documentaries, "They're lying. If there's a list, they don't want you to see it." This lack of cooperation not only frustrates families, but fuels suspicions of a larger conspiracy. The media sadly contributes to the silence. For 7-10 days, disappearances make headlines: man vanishes on Grouse Mountain, or 3-year-old missing in Colorado. But then, like a switch flipped, coverage stops. David receives countless emails from listeners of Coast to Coast or viewers of Vanished on the History Channel saying they can't find updates after the initial reports. This silence leaves families feeling abandoned and erodes public trust in authorities. In Manchester, 61 deaths in canals over 9 years were dismissed as unrelated, despite no witnesses and unclear causes of death. How can that be random? Amid this darkness, a new clue emerges. And it's more chilling than anything we've considered. A 90-year-old hunter, his voice trembling but resolute, told David about a 1970s abduction by a UFO. He described a craft landing in the woods, 3 elk frozen like statues, and a humanoid figure handing him a packet like vitamins. On the ship, he saw the elk motionless, and the figure said they regularly take animals, elk, deer, even marine life, for monitoring. When released, he rolled down a hill injured, but found his childhood tuberculosis scars gone. The bullet he picked up, analyzed by Wyoming criminalistics, hit something never seen before. Notably, the abduction site in Washington was riddled with chronic wasting disease, CWD. Are UFOs monitoring our environment, sampling humans and animals? Could Aaron, Jared, David be part of this experiment? This clue opens a terrifying possibility. These disappearances aren't just accidents or crimes, but part of a larger plan, perhaps beyond human understanding. But to grasp it fully, we must examine the competing theories, from UFOs to portals, from serial killers to cover-ups, each holding a piece of the truth, yet leaving questions that keep us awake at night. The pain of families like Alan Atadero, coupled with the National Park Service's eerie silence, has brought us to a haunting crossroads. What's really happening to the people in missing 411? When clothes are folded like a message, when bodies appear in places searched dozens of times, and when a 90-year-old hunter recounts a UFO encounter with chilling detail, we can't dismiss these as mere accidents or crimes. The strange clues, from Aaron Hedges' boots in snow with no tracks to the slow-falling bullet in the UFO story, are pointing to theories beyond imagination. In this part, we'll dissect 5 main theories, from aliens to dimensional portals, from serial killers to conspiracies to seek the truth. But each theory, no matter how compelling, leaves unanswered questions, making this mystery deeper and more terrifying. Let's start with a theory that sends chills down your spine. UFOs and aliens are abducting people. The 90-year-old hunter's testimony is the cornerstone here. In the 1970s, he said a UFO landed in a forest, freezing 3 elk-like statues. When he fired, the bullet moved in slow motion, then fell as if hitting an invisible barrier. A humanoid in strange clothing approached, gave him a packet like vitamins, and took him aboard a ship where the elk stood motionless. The figure said they regularly take elk, deer, and marine life for monitoring. When released, he was injured, but his tuberculosis scars vanished. The bullet, analyzed by Wyoming criminalistics, hit something never seen before. He passed 2 lie detector tests, both confirming his belief in the story. This theory explains many oddities: vanishings without traces, dogs finding no scent, and bodies reappearing like David Koch or Jared Atadero. It aligns with animal abductions, like an elk in Washington, where the area had CWD. Perhaps aliens are sampling humans and animals to study our environment or DNA. But it has holes. There's no concrete physical evidence, like spacecraft debris or alien tech. Why are some like the hunter returned, while 50% vanish forever? What's their purpose? DNA collection, as the hunter suggested. When told he wasn't chosen due to a vasectomy, or a larger experiment with humans as galactic lab rats. The second theory is even stranger: dimensional portals. NASA physicist John Brandenburg gave David a stunning perspective. He said portals are real, and NASA isn't studying if they exist, but how to use them. Brandenburg suggested a portal could explain cases like Dale Stalling in Mesa Verde National Park. Dale, who vanished while hiking near his family, was heard crying for help, but no one saw him. A local reporter hiking nearby heard him shout, "Help me from an area," but searchers found nothing. Years later, Dale's body was found under a tree in a searched area. Brandenburg proposed Dale was trapped in another dimension, able to see out but invisible to others. This explains bodies appearing in odd places like David Koch or Jared Atadero. It also accounts for the forest's eerie silence, when all sound vanishes, as David experienced in Northern California, possibly a portal opening, absorbing sound and victims. But portals have weaknesses. No solid scientific proof, and we don't know what controls them. Are they natural or created by an intelligent force? Why target specific people like German hunters or those with chronic illnesses? The third theory is simpler: natural accidents or illness. Maybe Aaron Hedges succumbed to hypothermia. Morgenheimer fell into a ravine, or Neville Jewell had a stroke from conditions like diabetes or epilepsy. Wilderness areas with rugged terrain and harsh weather are prime for accidents. In Grouse Mountain, heavy rain could have erased David Koch's traces. In Crazy Mountains, snow might have hidden Aaron's body. This theory is easy to accept, requiring no supernatural elements, and fits some cases like lost hikers. But it fails to explain bizarre details. Why do dogs, successful 99% of the time, find no scent? Why are clothes folded like the British Columbia hunters? Why do bodies appear in searched areas like Jared Atadero on an unreachable cliff? Many victims like Morgenheimer were healthy and experienced, unlikely to collapse without traces. This theory also doesn't account for GHB in urban victims' blood, like in Manchester or the Great Lakes. The fourth theory veers into conspiracy: the National Park Service, or a larger force is hiding the truth. Their lack of cooperation is the biggest clue. David's request for a missing persons list was met with a $1.4 million demand, outrageous. They use a missing and presumed dead classification, erasing cases, especially from the 1900s in Glacier. George Knapp insisted they're lying about the list. In British Columbia, searchers were barred from the woods, deemed unsearchable, despite the coordinators' protests. This suggests the Park Service might be protecting tourism, or worse, hiding secret experiments involving UFOs or advanced tech. In Canada, RCMP treats UFO reports as top secret, unlike the US's dismissive stance. Is there a difference in how nations handle this? But the conspiracy theory lacks concrete evidence of experiments or motives. Why would the government care about civilian disappearances? How could they coordinate a cover-up without leaks? The final theory is a serial killer suggested by former NYPD officer Gannon in Urban Cases. Gannon studied Hudson River cases where young men were found dead, with GHB dubbing them smiley face killers due to nearby graffiti. In Missing 411, this could apply to Manchester's 61 canal deaths or Great Lakes cases with GHB. But in the wilderness, a serial killer is unlikely. Many victims, like Aaron Hedges, carried guns, and abducting in forests leaves traces blood footprints sense. Dogs and searchers would find something, but Missing 411 cases show no struggle. How could a killer operate across vast areas from Glacier to Vancouver without being caught? And GHB, though suspicious, isn't found in wilderness cases, weakening the link. Personally, I lean toward UFOs and portals, as wild as it sounds. Too many details, folded clothes, no sense. Bodies appearing from nowhere defy logic. The hunter's story, though outlandish, matches animal abductions like the CWD-infected elk. Are aliens monitoring our planet's health, sampling humans and animals? What haunts me is the selection. Why German hunters and physicists? Why chronic illnesses? The hunter wasn't chosen because of his vasectomy, hinting at a breeding or DNA program. If true, we're part of a cosmic experiment. But whatever the truth, this story leaves a legacy of fear and questions, not just for families, but for all of us facing the unknown, lurking in the shadows. The theories of UFOs, portals, and conspiracies have led us into a maze of truth and mystery, where each answer spawns more questions. In Missing 411, the disappearances of Aaron Hedges, Jared Atadero, and David Koch aren't just numbers. They're stories of real people with families, dreams and lives cut short by a force we can't yet comprehend. When clothes are folded under a log, when bodies appear in searched areas, and when a hunter recounts a UFO encounter with haunted eyes, we're forced to confront a terrifying reality. Something is happening in our forests, and it's unlike anything we know. In this final part, we'll sum up the Missing 411 mystery, reflect on the unanswered questions, and leave behind a legacy not just of fear, but of resilience and hope, as people like David keep searching for the truth. Let's look at the big picture of Missing 411. David's research documents thousands of disappearances in North America's national parks and wilderness, from Glacier National Park to Yosemite, from Crazy Mountains to Vancouver's Capilano watershed. About 50% of these people vanish forever, like Aaron Hedges or Neville Jewell, gone as if they never existed. The other 50% are found, but 90% are dead, often in bizarre circumstances. David Koch was found in a pool after 13 days in an area searched thoroughly. Jared Atadero, a 3-year-old, left a skullcap and clothes on a 750-foot cliff 4 years later. Survivors, like a 2-year-old girl in Montana, remember nothing, as if their memories were erased. And among those found dead, many have no clear cause of death. A fact that coroners trained to find answers admit is unusual. "We know something's wrong," one coroner told David, "but we can't figure out why." The bizarre details tie these cases together. Dogs, successful 99% of the time, find no scent, as with Neville Jewell or Tom Billings. Clothes are folded like a British Columbia hunter's, or missing pieces like Aaron Hedges' boots with no signs of struggle. Bodies appear in searched areas like David Koch or Dial Stalling, as if placed back deliberately. Bad weather, rain, snow, fog always strikes after a disappearance, hindering searches. And then there are details that make your skin crawl: the forest's eerie silence, as David experienced in Northern California when all sound vanished. Or the slow falling bullet in the hunter's UFO story. These aren't just odd, they challenge the natural laws we know. But missing 411 isn't just about the missing. It's about those left behind, fighting for answers. Alan Atadero spent years trying to understand what happened to Jared, only to learn no animal or accident explains it. David Koch's family grieving still questions the 7 days he was unaccounted for. In the Great Lakes and Manchester, families demanded second autopsies finding GHB, but got no answers. Search teams from Vancouver volunteers to British Columbia coordinators worked tirelessly only to be thwarted by weather bans or lack of cooperation. Nothing is unsearchable, a British Columbia coordinator said, but SWAT's orders left him baffled. The National Park Service's silence is a mystery itself. Their $1.4 million demand for a list and missing and presumed dead classification erased many cases, especially from Glacier's 1900s. George Knapp insisted they're hiding something. But what a conspiracy to protect tourism. Or a darker secret tied to UFOs or portals, as the hunter's testimony and Brandenburg's research suggest. The difference in how Canada's RCMP treats UFO reports as top secret versus the US's dismissal adds to the suspicion of a buried truth. The impact of missing 411 extends beyond families and communities. It's changed how we view wilderness safety. David's talks and books urge people to carry personal locator beacons, PLB's guns and survival gear like emergency blankets or dryer lint for fires. He notes a striking statistic. No missing 411 case involves someone with both a PLB and a gun. These tips have saved lives, but fueled fear of hiking alone. In Montana, where 68 people vanished since 1896, locals are warier in the woods. In Vancouver, hiking groups insist on sticking together. In Manchester, 61 canal deaths created an urban fear with people avoiding walking alone near water at night. On a larger scale, David and a Colorado professor pushed for a bill pending in Congress to force the National Park Service to publish missing persons lists with details. If passed, it could shed light on hundreds of cases, offering hope to families. But until then, fear lingers. These disappearances aren't just in forests, but in cities like Manchester or the Great Lakes, where young men vanish from bars and appear in rivers. In British Columbia, human feet washing ashore only feet. No bodies deep in the sense that something horrific is at play beyond our control. Personally, I can't stop thinking about the 90-year-old hunter's testimony. His story, UFOs, frozen elk, a strange bullet, is too detailed to be fiction, combined with other oddities like folded clothes, no sense, or bodies appearing from nowhere. I believe we're facing something beyond human understanding. Maybe, as David suggested, we're a galactic ant farm with higher beings collecting DNA or monitoring our environment. The selection of victims. German hunters, those with chronic illnesses, makes me wonder if they're seeking specific traits like a breeding program or medical study. But whatever the truth, what haunts me most is the family's helplessness, waiting for answers, clinging to fading hope in the darkness. So what do you think is happening? Are UFOs really watching us, taking people and animals for research? Are there portals hidden in our forests, swallowing victims and spitting them back when done? Or is the National Park Service hiding a truth we're not ready to face? I want to hear your theories. Share them in the comments. What's behind missing 411? And if you've experienced something strange in the woods, like eerie silence or odd lights, tell us. Your story might be the next piece of the puzzle. Next time, we'll head to Manchester, England, where 61 young men died in canals with no explanation, and British Columbia, where feet wash ashore carrying mysteries without answers. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell to stay updated. Thanks for joining me in the shadows. Maybe the truth is out there waiting for someone brave enough to find it.